Hackers practice.
패러프레이징 연습.
1.
You'll be awarded with discount coupons for local dining establishments.
2.
Visitors are not allowed to enter any of the red entranceways.
3.
The membership fees for the club are paid each month.
4.
There are many famous paintings on the walls of this institution.
5.
The appendix was a working human organ at one time.
6.
You need to hold licensure in your region of employment.
7.
It's important that your research citations be no more than 5 years old.
8.
The lunch cafeteria is available for anyone in the student club to use for free if they present some identification.
9.
Tourist maps will be given to everyone using the leisure centre and will show the facilities of the local area.
10.
Social media sites have allowed entrepreneurs like Perla Klein to reach target audiences in a mere instant.
11.
This species of lizard lives in the thick undergrowth of the Amazon rainforest, which it shares with an array of plants.
12.
The reduction of water levels in the Aral Sea has had a detrimental effect on commerce among towns and cities.
유형 연습. Section 2. You will hear the anchor of a radio program discussing urban gardens. First, you have some time to read through questions 1 to 3. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 3.
It's a beautiful morning here in Vancouver, and we at Radio RZZT are pleased to give you an update on the city's Community Focus Program. Sue Butler, chairperson of the Urban Renewal Committee, made an announcement this morning about an urban gardening initiative being launched by the British Columbia provincial government. In order to promote a more sustainable urban lifestyle, the government has developed a plan to set up urban gardens in 3 different communities in the city. Each garden will consist of around 20 plots. Due to the varying composition of the soil, the type of plants grown in each garden will differ for each neighborhood. Firstly, the West End is adjacent to the harbor. The government has recognized that the soil here is poor. So, they have decided that it is most suitable for growing herbs, since these plants are very resilient. They plan to plant basil, thyme, coriander, and a range of other herbs. This neighborhood also has many residents who already pursue growing plants as a hobby. The government plans to provide a vacant lot so that these people can expand their interest by growing herbs. Then you have Mount Pleasant, which they have decided is the most suitable place for growing woodland wildflowers. This area is shady, so they think flowers will thrive here. Additionally, the area has a flower market near Vancouver Community College, and the government intends to allow sellers to grow wildflowers in the Mount Pleasant plot. And lastly, Miss Butler noted that East Hastings' wide-open unused lots will be the most appropriate for growing produce. There is, unfortunately, a lack of affordable grocery stores within this section of our city. So, the government believes that encouraging the growth of produce will provide residents in this neighborhood with easier access to fresh fruits and vegetables. Beyond the obvious benefit of having more greenery in each neighborhood, the gardens can become spaces where the community gathers, increasing social interaction and encouraging a sense of shared responsibility among citizens. For more information on the Urban Gardening Project and details from Miss Butler's press release, you may go to the Urban Renewal Committee's website. Now for a short break before our next program.
You now have 15 seconds to check your answers.
Section 2. You will hear a conversation between a radio host and a guest discussing new holiday resorts. First, you have some time to read through questions 4 to 7. Now listen carefully and answer questions 4 to 7.
Good afternoon and thanks for listening to Holiday Talk. Our guest today is travel journalist and reviewer Simon Beattie. He will be discussing some of the new vacation resorts that will be opening this year in the UK, as many holidaymakers are looking to travel locally rather than heading to other destinations that cost more money. Thanks for joining us this afternoon, Simon.
And thank you for inviting me, Audrey.
So, I understand that there are several new holiday resorts that will be launching for the upcoming vacation season.
Yes, there are quite a few new establishments opening up. First, we have the Blue Sands Resort opening in Brighton. It's a great place for young kids as there are lots of activities for them to do. It even has a small amusement park. So, if you prefer not being around children, it's probably not the best place for you. It opens in April. Also opening that month is Shores Resort near Bournemouth. This facility has a lot of nightlife and entertainment, so it is more geared to adult tourists. Kids are welcome, but it doesn't sound like there is much for them to do there. Now, the Pealand Hotel and Resorts has just opened to the public. It's got a massive water park and lots of fun activities just for children. However, the resort has specific areas reserved for adults only as well, so there's something for everyone.
And there are lots of other amusement parks and outdoor activities in the area too.
There are, including water sports, hiking trails and beaches. And then we move on to the Zone Fun Beach Resort in Salcombe. Now that facility is geared to university-age travellers. It's got a nightclub, an outdoor stage, and even a floating dance floor, so it isn't particularly recommended for families, and it will be launching in May.
So there are a lot of new options out there. Now, could you tell us a bit about costs?
You now have 15 seconds to check your answers.
Section 3. You will hear a conversation between a tutor and a student about a project on endangered languages. First, you have some time to read through questions 8 to 12. Now listen carefully and answer questions 8 to 12.
Melissa, I've been going through your project's proposal on endangered languages. I think it's a very interesting topic. Can you tell me why did you choose to focus on Native American languages? And what particular languages will you focus on?
Well, it was because they seem to be languages in the most danger of disappearing. So far, the only ones I want to include for sure are the Pawnee language and the Cherokee language.
Good. There is lots of information out there about the Cherokee, so definitely use that. But keep in mind that Professor Johnson wants you to provide detailed graphs about the phonetics of the endangered languages you choose to research. Because Pawnee only has 9 different consonant sounds, it might not be the best candidate for such detail.
Right. I forgot about that. I thought it would be good to include Pawnee as there's so much reference material on it. Okay, I'll leave that one out.
Another language I'd suggest is that of the Kashaya people of the American Pacific Coast. They have over 40 distinct consonants, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I would have researched the Kashaya language, but I checked it out before, and it has a very limited number of vowel sounds. But you're right. It might be a good one to study just because of sound variety. If there isn't a better idea, I'll do it.
Okay. What about the Menominee people's language? Their language had about 12 different vowels as well as a similar number of consonants.
I don't think I'll use that one because I couldn't find enough data.
Well, another option is the Algonquin Native American tribe from northwestern Wisconsin and Michigan. Their language had about 12 different vowels, as well as some diphthongs, plus a similar number of consonants. It is very similar to the Menominee language, but there's a lot more information on the Algonquin tongue out there.
Oh, well, it will be easier to research. I'll do that.
Good. Anyway, that will give you a good start. Now, what you need to do is revise your proposal.
You now have 15 seconds to check your answers.
Section 4. You will hear a lecture given by a professor about the behavioral traits of primates. First, you have some time to read through questions 13 to 17. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 13 to 17.
Hello, everyone. Last class, we learned a bit about the evolution of the gorilla over time. For today's talk, I'll focus on other primates by looking at the behavioral traits of several individual species. First, let's look at the behavior of different primate species in terms of food availability. Now, all primates eat both insects and plants, but some species have developed a strong preference for fruits and leaves. The chimpanzees of the Congo rainforest, for example, have an abundance of fruits and leaves to choose from. These primates are interesting because they use rocks as tools to crack open nuts. Then, they gather together in their nesting areas after collecting food. In contrast, baboons live in the savanna or grassy flatlands, where fruits and other edible plants are rare. To compensate for a lack of edible plants, baboons often use long blades of grass to catch ants as a food source. So, climate can significantly affect the behavior of primates. The orangutans of Sumatra, for example, spend long days gathering food in the jungle. And after that, they spend nights cooling off, staying away from predators, and sleeping in the branches of trees. The bonobos of Central Africa also have to cope with the weather and endure cool nights. One way they do this is by sleeping together in nests to help keep one another warm. This is also reason why they're known for being markedly social, along with their habit of helping one another out with the care of infants. Furthermore, squirrel monkeys are also known to use jungle canopy as shade when it's too hot to forage. The macaques of Japan and primates living in the mountains of North Africa, on the other hand, have the opposite problem to contend with. Fiercely cold winters mean they must regulate their metabolisms or gather together in hot springs for warmth. So, as you can see, there is much diversity among primate species in terms of behavioral traits. However, there can be overlap as well, such as with their mating rituals, which we will look at in a moment. But before I move on to that topic, I'll take any questions you might have.
You now have 15 seconds to check your answers. Hackers Test.
Section 3. You will hear a conversation between two students about a biology class field trip. First, you have some time to read through questions 1 to 6. Now listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 6.
So, was there anything that stood out to you about the field trip to the Wharton Agricultural Research Centre? The introduction gave a good overall explanation of the facility and its purpose.
Yes, I found that to be quite fascinating, especially the experiments they are conducting. You know, the work that the employee mentioned they're doing on natural pesticides, or plants that have been modified to be resistant to insect infestation. Those would be easy topics to research. But how about the talk given by the Director of Research? There was so much information that I felt overwhelmed. It was just too much to digest all at once.
Yes, that was way too complicated. I'm sure there was a lot of helpful information in her talk, but I couldn't understand much of it. She tended to use a lot of technical language, which I found really difficult to follow.
I agree, but fortunately I recorded it, so we can listen to it later and just look up anything we don't understand. The centre was actually much larger than I imagined it would be. It was huge, and the other scientists who led our tour of the laboratories was very nice.
For sure. I thought that area was especially impressive. The technology behind the centre's studies seems very advanced. Honestly, I had no idea agricultural research involves so much advanced machinery and equipment. And it was great that we learned exactly how the equipment is used.
I know what you mean. I was quite surprised at the precision of the equipment. I don't know about you, but I really liked walking through the outdoor areas where they were growing plant specimens for their experiments. I can't believe how many plants they had.
Oh, there must have been thousands. I was really interested in the section on ancient plants. Remember? Where they were cultivating plant species that had been germinated from seeds found at archaeological sites.
Yes, the area where seeds from ancient food plants were growing. The pumpkins, potatoes and carrots all looked so different from what we're accustomed to eating today. And the ancient corn plants they were growing were very small compared to what we're normally used to.
Even the ancient grains looked very different. I hardly recognized the wheat and barley plants. Unless the guide had told us, I wouldn't have known what they were.
Yes, that was a really fascinating aspect of the field trip for me too. I wish we could have spent more time there.
I feel the same way. What did you think of the talk by the plant genetics researcher? She seemed to really know what she was talking about.
Honestly, I thought it was a bit disorganized. She could have explained things more clearly. But it wasn't as bad as that so-called discussion at the end of the field trip. I don't know about you, but I was very disappointed.
Oh, I know. They told us we'd have a chance to ask questions, but that person just gave a couple of closing remarks, and that was it. I'm sure we all had some questions. I know I did.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you can read through questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
So, we have to choose a topic discussed during the field trip to use during our presentation. What about focusing on ancient food plants? It seems we were both interested in it as a topic, and there was quite a bit of research data shared about it.
Sure, I'm fine with that. But there was such a vast variety of plants. Even some fruit trees. We should probably narrow down our focus. We only have a limited amount of time for the presentation. Maybe we need to just choose one plant variety.
Well, let's focus specifically on ancient grains. What do you think?
Okay, yeah. I took quite a few notes while the guide was explaining them. There aren't just physical differences between ancient grains and contemporary ones, but differences in their resistance to pests as well.
Well, we will definitely want to include information on that. And maybe we could get our hands on some plant samples to show the class, just so they can physically see how grains have changed since ancient times.
Wouldn't it be easier just to find some images online? I think we'll be able to use the projection system for our presentation. It would save us the time it would take to ask the centre if we could get a plant sample.
That's true. Let's go ahead with your idea. Oh, and I also remember that the guide explained that the ancient grains are a bit more difficult to cultivate and grow than current grain plants, which have been significantly modified. Maybe we can give some details on that aspect.
I don't know if we should mention that. I think we are going to find enough information to share with the class with what we've selected already.
True enough. Okay, so maybe we should go through our notes and recordings at this point and find information that will be pertinent to our presentation.
Sure, that sounds like a good plan. We can find some pictures once we have sorted through our data.
That is the end of section 3. You now have half a minute to check your answers.